Hi, how you doing? Okay, what we're going to do is, as you can see, we've got our assembled, we've got our assembled scene here, and all I've done is, if I drop into perspective and zoom out, I've basically put it back together again, like we had it earlier, and what I've done for my own personal configuration is I've made a kind of U shape, but I mean you can make whichever shape you like, quite frankly, so whatever rocks your world, you know. Turn off show safe frame. So, if we turn this upside down, you can see the shape I've got. Nothing particularly complicated. Now, if I knock into camera view, just press C and wait. What I've done in my scene itself, my render dialog, if I press F10, is I've got a width of 600 and a height of 800, because I want it as a kind of portrait style. And I've put on show safe frame just to make sure that it's framed nicely. I can see these boxes up here that represent the hidden parts. Now what I'm going to want to do is kind of set this up as a lit scene using mental ray. So if I press H and hide anything that's geometry, just to make sure there's no lights existing in my scene, what I'm going to do is just set up an omni. Sorry, no, a skylight, not an omni. And I'll just use auto grid. I'm going to drag one out there. Okay, and just press W, drag it up to here. Right up, that's it. Go over here, now you can see there's a map. So I'm going to go into bitmaps, and I've got a few HDRIs to choose from. So let's see, which one shall I have? There's a couple of free ones that I quite like as well, but I think I'll go with the Park Plats. And I'll have the Park Plats low. There we go. And I'll move the white point just to here. You can see where the end of the graph is. So about 3.3. And click OK. Go into my material. Now you can see I've got an old environment sitting here, so I'm just going to drag it over the top. Use an instance. And I want to make sure it's environmental mapping. I'm going to use a spherical. Now it was 3.8, so if I go down here to my output and change this to 3.8, that's about what I want. Possibly 4.3 if I want it a little bit brighter than that. Apart from that, that looks fine. Now I'm going to want to put a light source in here, so I'm going to use something like an IES sun. So if I go to my lighting, photometric, IES sun. I'm not going to use a mental ray sun because I think it's a bit pap. Nah, that's not really. I'm just not going to use a mental ray sun because I don't really feel like it at the minute. Okay, here's my target point here. So I'm now going to move, if I right click my sun, all the way up to here. And try and get it so that I've got the sun kind of coming down in here. And if I go to my mental ray light shader here, I'm going to ignore pretty much everything else. And for my light shader, if I press the none button, I'm going to choose a light infinite. I choose these a lot when I'm just doing a simple GI solution. Well, final gather solution anyway. Now, I'm going to click enable, and I'm going to drag it over to here. Click instance. For colour, I'm going to go to yellow, and I'm going to go around about here. Not too much saturation, just enough to add a little bit of sunlight to it. I'm going to stick some shadows in. That should do. Alright, now, with that done, I can go to F10. If I can see it, because the light bulb's gone in here, unfortunately. I'm not even sure if Camtasia's on. Ah, there it is. Right, as I say, I've got 600 by 800, 600 wide, 800 high. If I go to my renderer, samples per pixel got a minimum of 1/4 and a maximum of 16. That way there'll be less jaggies. I'm going to leave the box as it is. Bucket width 48 should be fine. I don't need to mess around with any camera effects, shadows or displacement. If I go to indirect illumination, I'm going to enable final gather. I'll set it at medium, otherwise we'll be here for many, many years. I'm not going to put on caustics. If I go to processing, I'll untick conserve memory for the time being. I don't want to render it to elements. Okay, so we're nearly done. File, save as, and I'm going to call this workbench 3 because I like to work in incremental workbenches. Right, now what I'm going to do is kick off a render like so. Now this render is going to take quite a long time, simply because there's a lot of stuff that's got to happen. Now before it actually renders the scene, it's going to calculate the all the light in the scene. Now you can see down here we've got 2 buckets already. Now it's going to take a while for those. I mean, if we look here, it was 1 minute 55 to render this without any form of advanced lighting whatsoever in the scene. So it's probably best that I pause it and come back to this in about 20 minutes or so. I'm just unpausing for a moment just so you can see what's going on down here. You can see the light calculations are taking place. That's what this kind of exciting blocky thing is. Okay, I'm going to pause it again for a while. Just unpause again for a moment or two, just so you can see what's going on. As you can see, it's still processing. There we go, and what we've got here is our final rendered scene, which took 26 minutes 5 seconds. And it's a nice dark scene. I've got the light kind of coming in through there. Now if I wanted to lighten this up, then what I could do is save this, and I'm going to save it as Ren 1 dark. Let's save it as a JPEG. There we go. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 variations of this. I'm going to take one without any lighting and one with some lighting. Sorry, one without any lighting and then one without a texture whatsoever. So if I just turn that off, and I'll go to F10 in dark illumination, turn off FG. Just close that. Then I'm going to select my 2 lights. So there's my sun and my sky. Select those and delete. Okay, now I'll do a fast render, which will take about 1 minute 27 or thereabouts. That's more or less what it took last time anyway. You can probably just sit and watch it in real time. Let's see what's happening over here. Probably might be easier just to pause it actually. Let's see what's happening. Yeah, I'll pause it for the moment. Okay, so we've got this plain Jane vanilla super duper render. So I'm going to save that. This will be Ren 2 light. Just wait a moment, there we go. Now the next one is going to be none of the above really, so materials, and I'm just going to pick an empty one here, and I'm going to stick on an ambient occlusion, just slam it in, and just wait for everything to update. Hideous. Okay, press F9. And this will take a moment or two to render as well. Oh, the last one took 4 minutes 45, look. Slightly longer than I thought. Never mind. See, the reason I've got 3 renders here, one being just an ambient occlusion pass, and one being light with no shadows, and one being dark with lots of shadows, is so that I can kind of blend them together and take the bits I want from each of them. Okay, here it goes. I mean, if you look, the ambient occlusion one has lots of lovely shadow that I'd really like to kind of get into. Actually get into our piece. Whereas the dark one obviously has lots of ambience that I really like. Not ambient occlusion, but ambience. So I'm going to let this go past, and then I'm going to load up the old Photoshop, and I'm going to slot them into there. So let's get this. Let this rather continue on. Okay, as you can see, this one's now finished as well. So I'm going to save this as Ren 3 ambient occlusion, like so. Okay, now I'm going to load up the old Photoshoppery. There we go. Don't be fooled by the World of Warcraft thing, by the way. I have to fight to get my children off this computer sometimes. Okay, I've just started Autodesk 3D Studio Max again, even though I already had a copy open. That wasn't what I wanted. I want Adobe Photoshop. There we go. File and open. Okay, and if I'll have a look in renders, I'm going to open these three. Won't take long. And first thing I'm going to do is grow this one out. And I'm going to go Control A, Control C, Control V. Add a multiply channel to this. And as you see, I get some nice shadowing in the places that I really needed it. So I've got my colour, but I've also got an ambient pass now kind of hitting it. And I can change the opacity on this to make it lighter if I need to. I think probably around about 70 should be enough. Okay, that's fine. Just going to flatten my image. So I can close this now because I'm not going to be using it. Now this one here is my main image that I want to use, so just expand that up. And I'll go to Rend 2 Light, which is just here, to Control A, Control C. Control V, just paste it in. I'm going to use another multiply down, like so. This time I'm going to change the opacity to about 36 or 35. 35 should do it. Okay, so that's quite a dark piece still at the moment. Okay, now what I want to do is lighten up areas of this background just using the dodge tool. Because I want to be able to actually see some of this detail I'm putting in here. I know it's kind of dark and a bit gloomy down here, but I don't want it too dark and too blooming gloomy. Let's bring out some highlights here. That's where the yellow paint is. There we are. Especially areas where windows are. You really want to kind of bring some reflections and some light around there. Okay, and there. Maybe over here too. Should really be using my Wacom for this, but I'm just not. Okay, over here. It's nice. Now let's do pass up here as well. Slightly less of a pass above it, and then one over here. Right, now let's highlight a bit more detail. Not quite that much. About that much. A little bit of underneath reflecting up. Probably a bit too much there. I'll just go down here a bit. It's fine. Let's highlight some of these. A couple of light patches here. All I'm doing is kind of highlighting areas where I want a little bit of reflectivity to be happening. Where the light perhaps is coming in. Too much light there. Take some off. There we are. A little bit. Now add some floors up here. There we go. And up there. Okay. Just really looking to kind of get some areas on this that are kind of going to draw the eye a bit more. These are definitely areas over here. Not there. Bit too bright there. Okay. Yep, that's fine. Let's just add a highlight there. A bit more. Maybe another one here. Reduce the shadow a bit. Okay, that's not too bad. Flatten this image down. Let's make some adjustments to levels. Because as you see, we've got this big flat line just here, and we can kind of adjust that up if we wanted to now. Not too much, because you don't want to lose that colour. If you look, if we amp it up too much, all the graininess from our ambient occlusion throws in. So we don't want to move it up too much. Maybe move our mid-tone up a bit. Okay, that's not too bad. The lights are certainly showing off quite nicely there as well. Okay. Let's get our Ren light. Paste it into here again. I'm going to duplicate this layer. Throw it over the top of here. And this is going to allow me to do some deleting in places that I want to get the original colour of the unlit piece to come through. Like that, you see. So not as big as that though, it's just for like really bright highlighting. So I'm bringing out details on these cannons mainly. No, I'll keep that one the way it is. I quite liked that. Anything else that I want to kind of lighten up a bit? A little bit there. Just get rid of some of this graininess. There we go. That's my printer just churning away beside me because one of my daughters is no doubt printing out her homework. Not that I can complain, at least they're doing their homework. A little bit of shiner there. And there. Just adding some corner highlights. One there as well. Okay, that's looking okay, nice and dark, the way I wanted it. Excellent, I'm quite pleased with that. Let's just have a look down here at this shadow. Just recolour those a bit. That looks fine. Anywhere else I need to add up a little bit of highlighting? Not quite that much. Let's see. I'll just reduce the master diameter down to 8. Oops, a daisy, not like that. Tiny bit of highlight along the bottom here. Along here too. Mainly because it looks nice. Okay. Yeah, it looks fine. I'm quite happy with that. Yeah. Okay, and so I'm going to leave it like this, because I think that looks quite pretty. And it's not bad considering it's only 20 minutes, including rendering, although it took a lot longer when you consider render times would have added an extra 35 minutes to that or so. But I'm really pleased with that. So, bye-bye for now. Thanks a lot for watching. See you later.